Okay, this is the AP Calculus practice test from 2018. We're on number 84 on the multiple choice, and we will finish out the multiple choice, go through number 90 on this video. So number 84 says, if the average value of a function f over the closed interval 2 to 4 is 3, and if f of x is greater than 0 for all x in the interval 2 to 4, what is the area of the region enclosed by the graph of y equals f of x, the lines x equals 2, x equals 4, and the x-axis? Well, let's sketch out what we have here. Okay, so we know we have a line at x equals 2 and at x equals 4. We know that f of x is greater than 0. And we know that the average value of f of x is 3. Okay, so I'm going to draw one possibility. So if we just drew a straight line there for f of x, we would have a trapezoid. Now it could be that the line goes down this way, and it might not be a line, but that's really all I have to go on, okay? And so I'm just going to figure out what is the area of that trapezoid and see how close it is to any of the answers. Okay, so the area of a trapezoid is the base times the average height. Okay, so whereas a rectangle is base times height, trapezoid is base times the average height. They already gave us that the average height, the average value is 3, so that's the average height. So our area is, the base is 2, average height is 3, so that is 6, and that is answer B. So just sketch out what the description of the problem is giving you and see if you can figure out the answer. Okay, so no calculator really required on this one. All right, number 85 I can fit underneath here. So number 85, it says we've got a table of values, and it wants to know what is the limit as x approaches 0 of e to the minus 2 times f of x. Let me write that out first, and then we'll look at the table. So we're trying to get the limit as x approaches 0 of e to the minus 2 times f of x. Okay, well, as x approaches 0, right, as x approaches 0, f of x also approaches 0, just looking at the table. Okay, so that's going to be the limit as x approaches 0 of e to the minus 2 times 0, which is just e to the 0, which is 1. Okay, so that is option C. So don't overcomplicate it. That one's pretty easy to look at. So you just want to nab those 84 and 85, both pretty easy. All right, I'm going to erase. Okay, 86, I'm going to go ahead and sketch this out. Okay, so we've got that equation. This is region R. And it says that region R is the base of a solid, and if you were to chop out cross sections perpendicular to the x-axis, they would be, all right, if we were to chop that out, a cross section, it would be an isosceles right triangle. Okay, so an isosceles right triangle has the base and the height are equal. So we need to figure out which function's on top and which is on bottom. Well, x minus 2 all squared, that's a parabola. Okay, so x minus 2 all squared is going to be that one. And then cosine starts up at the top and then comes down, if you remember your pre-cal shapes. So that is 4 times the cosine of pi x over 4. So the height of this triangle is top minus bottom. Height, which is also the base, is going to be 4 cosine pi x over 4 minus, right, top minus bottom, x minus 2 all squared. Okay, so the area of this triangle is 1/2 base times height. So that's 1/2 of this entire thing all squared. So the volume, we're going to add up all the areas. Now let's bring the 1/2 of the base times height out front. And we're going from 0 to 2. So it's going to be 4 cosine pi x over 4 minus x minus 2 all squared. But if the base is equal to the height, then you would just square all that. 1/2 base times height is just 1/2 height times height if the two are equal, dx. So you need to put that in your calculator, and I want you to go ahead and give that a try. Okay, but when you do, so it's going to take a lot of parentheses to get this right, but the volume is equal to, if you put it in your calculator right, 1.775, which is option A. But I definitely want you to try that on your own and keep trying it till you get that 1.775. Okay, isosceles triangle is definitely one of the shapes you might get. If you can remember that the base is equal to the height, the area then is 1/2 times the height squared, or the base squared, whichever you want to say it, then it's really not that hard a thing to figure out. All right. So 87, it says we have 2 to 6 of f of x is equal to 5. 6 to 2 of g of x is equal to 7. We want to know, okay, what is 2 to 6 of 3 times f of x plus g of x? Well, we can rewrite this. It says 6 to 2 is 7. If you reverse the limits of integration, then that just makes that number negative. So 2 to 6 of g of x is negative 7. So 2 to 6 of 3 times f of x plus g of x is going to be 3 times 5, because 2 to 6 of f of x is 5, plus negative 7, and that is 8, which is option B. Okay, so that one's not too hard if you can remember that reversing the inputs negates the integrand. All right. Number 88. Okay, it gives you a lot of scenarios there. First of all, it says f double prime of x is less than 0 for all x. What that means is that f of x is concave down. If the second derivative is less than 0, this thing is concave down. All right, and it gives you some things that you can draw out. We've got a point 3 f of 3. All right, so let's put a 3 there and an f of 3. We've got a point 5 f of 5. Okay, so I don't know if this function starts up way up here, or 3 f of 3 could be up top, and f of 5 could be down bottom. But you know, we've got a situation where we've got to just kind of make one plausible option, and we know it's concave down. So I'm just gonna draw something like that. Okay, that works. You could also have it where it's coming the other way. Okay, but I think we can answer the question either way. Now it says we have a secant line S of x that also passes through those points. So I'm going to put the secant line in blue. We know a secant line is that average value. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and extend that. So that is S of x in blue. Then we have a tangent line at 4. Okay, so there's 4. The tangent line would look something like that. Okay, that's in red. Okay, so we've got something that works. Let's read the possibilities here. So A says that f of 4.2 is less than s of 4.2 is less than t of 4.2. So it's saying f of 4.2 it would be on bottom. And we know that can't be the case. Okay, if it's concave down, then s of x, the secant line, it's got to be always less. So that's going to be a no. B says f of 4.2 is less than t of 4.2, which is less than s of 4.2. Okay, so what that's saying is that S, the secant line, has to be on top. That's the biggest one. That's not the case. Okay, you can see from this drawing, secant line's got to be less than f of x because it's concave down. Okay, so that's going to be a no. Option C, S of 4.2 is less than f of 4.2, which is less than t of 4.2. This one works. The tangent line's on top, and then the function, and then the secant line. And if I had drawn this graph like this, going down that way, concave down that way, it would still be the same thing. You'd still have the right answer. Okay, so this answer, what works, is C. All right, so they're just seeing, do you understand what a secant line is? Do you understand what a tangent line is? And do you understand that the second derivative less than 0 means concave down? Okay, if you understand all that, you can get the right answer. Okay, let's flip the page and go to 89. Okay, that tells us p prime of t is equal to 0.3t squared plus 12t plus 210. All right, and it also says that p of 0, the initial population, is 40. Number 1 says that at time t equals 10, the number of insects in the population is 2840. So what we need to do to check that is get p of 10. Number 2 says at time t equals 10, Roman number 2, the number of insects in the population is increasing at a rate of 360 insects per day. Well, if it's increasing at a rate, we're getting p prime of 10. So we're checking to see, does that equal 360? And then part 3 says, at times t equals 10, the rate of change of the number of insects is increasing at a rate of 18. So it's saying the rate of change is increasing. Well, p prime is the rate of change. So if the rate of change is increasing, then we need to get p double prime of 10 and check that. They gave us p prime of 10. Okay, so we can go ahead and check to see if that is equal to what they said. We would have 0.3 times 10 squared plus 12 times 10 plus 210. So just put that in your calculator. And that does indeed equal 360. So we know that part 2 is true. I'd have to get, let's get p double prime. So we're going to take the derivative of p prime. That's going to be 0.6t plus 12. So p double prime of 10 would be 0.6 times 10 plus 12, which is 18. So we know that number 3 is true. So both 2 and 3 are true. That actually, we can answer the question now. We know that the answer is D. Because D is the only option that has both 2 and 3 as true. I'm going to go ahead and take the time, though, to remind you how to get P of t. We would integrate 0.3t squared plus 12t plus 210. And if you do that, that's going to be 0.1t cubed. You can take the derivative to check that, but it's t cubed, 0.3t cubed divided by 3, so that gives you 0.1, plus 6t squared plus 210t plus our initial population of 40. Right? That's our p naught. So we could check p of 10, and if you plug 10 into that, and you do get to use your calculator, thank goodness, you will get 2840. All right, so number 1 is also true, but you wouldn't have to do that if you started out doing the derivative, p prime of 10, and then quickly taking the second derivative and checking that. That forces D to be the correct answer. So sometimes you don't have to do all the work. Okay, and finally, number 90. I'm going to go ahead and write out this table. So number 90, we have x, h of x, h prime of x, and 3, 7, and that's 7, 5, 22, 10. Now in the problem, it says that h of g of x is equal to x. So what does that mean? That means h and g are inverses. And there is a reciprocal relationship to inverses. Okay, so I can get the value of the derivative of an inverse if I know the value of the derivative of the original function. So g prime of 7 is going to be 1 over h prime of 3. Okay? And so that's going to be 1 over 5. Okay, so that is C. So it's not h prime of 7. That would be it would be easy to do 1/10. But it's 1 over h prime of the other value. Okay. So what this is saying is that g of 3 is equal to h of 7, and h of 7 is equal to g of 3. So you have to use the other value, h prime of 3. So that finishes up the 2018 multiple choice. So happy studying, and talk to you next video.